JD Vance is determined. This boy is determined at this point to completely sink the Trump campaign. Trump, Don Jr., Eric, go investigate him. Go find out if he is a sleeper agent for Coconut Kamala, because JD Vance continues to double down on people who don't have kids. I don't understand what's going on, but keep it up, by the way. It's helping us. It's emboldening and strengthening the Kamala Association. Voters for Kamala. You know, big Kamala gang, whatever you want to call it. This group, this new movement of Kamala supporters, it grows ever stronger every single time JD Vance gets like exposed for saying some unbelievably just tone deaf nonsense. He says that, you know, people who don't have kids are more prone to sociopathic behavior, and the psychotic people on Twitter are, you know, it's mostly coming from, you know, the psychotic behavior we see on Twitter. It's coming from people who don't have kids. Don't have kids as the explanation for America's character problem, apparently.
Just these basic cadences of life that I think are really powerful and really, really valuable when you have kids in your life. And the fact that so many people, especially in America's leadership class, just don't have that in their lives, you know, I worry that it makes people more sociopathic and ultimately our whole country a little bit less less mentally stable. And of course, you talk about going on Twitter. Final point I'll make is you go on Twitter, and almost always the people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids at home.
Now, the obvious thing to do here would be to talk about the happiness, the highlights of having a child. Talk about the positives. Talk about the things you're going to do for people who have kids. Talk about how you're going to provide free lunch in schools. You know, you don't want to do that, though. The Republican Party continuously makes it harder for people to have kids. You guys are trying to cut free school lunch, and yet you think you can lecture the entire country about the virtue of having children? How? How is that possible? You go on to talk about the lack of kids bringing about more sociopathic behavior in people, and yet you follow a man who lied to his supporters about the election being stolen and got someone killed. One of his own supporters was shot and killed in the Capitol because of Donald Trump's lies. Donald Trump never apologized. Donald Trump never took accountability. Donald Trump has yet to... Actually, Donald Trump didn't even deny that he did these things. He said, I deserve immunity as former president because I was president when I committed these crimes. I was president when I lied to my supporters. I was president when I conspired against the United States. I should be considered immune. No apologies, no guilt, no remorse, no walkbacks. The man didn't even have the integrity to just stop running for office. You know what? My lies got someone killed. Maybe it's time for me to take a step back. No. Donald Trump, in fact, thinks it's time for him to ramp up even more. He continues to assert that he won. He continues to assert that there will be more fraud and more theft when he's never found election fraud ever. He set up an entire team to find election fraud in 2016. They found none. He sent his DOJ to find fraud, couldn't find any. And now here we are again for the third time, Donald Trump accusing everyone else of fraud, despite the fact that he doesn't deny conspiring to commit fraud on January 6th. He just says, I was president, so give me immunity. He caused someone's death. And the reason why I bring this up isn't just to harp on January 6th. It's to talk about this man's accusations of sociopathic behavior. Oh, you know, people without kids are more prone to sociopathic activity. You support a sociopath. Imagine getting one of your own supporters killed. Donald Trump was told ahead of time his supporters had weapons. He said, well, they're not here to hurt me. Then, for 3 hours, he sits there and says nothing to his mob that's currently in the Capitol looking to bring harm to senators and members of the House. He doesn't care. He absolutely does not care. He sits there for 3 hours and does nothing. His daughter, his son, everyone in his camp, please call them off. Please do something. He does nothing because he wanted to see if his supporters could violently oust his political enemies. And he tried to pressure Mike Pence while the riot had broken into the Capitol building. Long story short, too long didn't read, Your boss is a sociopath, and he has many kids, multiple baby mamas too. Salute, you know what I'm saying? Your boss has many baby mamas, many kids, and yet despite that fact, your boss is unbelievably disrespectful, unbelievably sociopathic in spite of the destruction he caused, the loss of life he caused, the lack of trust in America's democracy he caused. Your boss feels not an inkling of guilt, not an inkling of remorse, not an inch of a desire to change what he did. Nothing. Zero. And yet you think you can plaster words like sociopath over people simply because they don't have kids? What is wrong with JD Vance? And to address the second point about Twitter, JD Vance, Twitter has become a hellhole since you guys took over. Since the new George Soros, aka Elon Musk, has taken over Twitter, it has become a hotbed of anti-black and anti-Jewish racism. I go on my Twitter feed and I just see like a litany of just anti-black racism, and I don't even follow Fuentes. I don't follow Richard Spencer. I don't follow Jared Taylor. I don't follow David Duke. I don't follow these characters. There's no reason for me to see this stuff on my feed, but I see it anyways. Anti-Semitism has been on the rise on Twitter. The Petersons got into a scrap with Nick Fuentes on Twitter about it. I'm going to be making a video about that soon. Ever since you guys have taken over, Twitter has become hell on earth. The most psychotic, racist, evil takes I've seen are coming from your side. And yet you think you have the magic wand necessary to zap each and every single one of your political opponents with the sociopath, psychopath, all of that card? Really? You think you're in position to lay down these kinds of judgments? You're not. I'm sick and tired of conservatives acting like if you have kids and you believe in God and you got conservative values, you're automatically a good person. No. Just because you, JD Vance, believe in Christ and have kids and believe in conservative values does not mean you're a good and moral person. You promised to break your oath to the Constitution if Trump asked you to. You are currently running with a man who committed sedition. Like, you are running with a man who tried to steal an election, and you think you can make moral judgment calls for anyone else? You are in delusion land. Maybe the eyeliner is blocking your ability to see the truth. That might be what it is. Maybe that's what's in the way. But I'm trying to showcase to you that just because you have conservative values does not make you a good person or a good politician. You can have as many kids as you want. You can have as many conservative values as you want. But if you are getting in the way of people's rights, liberty, freedom, pursuit of happiness, if you are trying to destroy America's foreign policy by cozying up to Russia, if you're currently aiding and abetting a man who betrayed the United States while he was the seated president, if you are engaging in those acts, I don't care about your conservative values. I'm done pretending with y'all that because you are a conservative, you're automatically a good politician or a good person. Newsflash, you're not. This is the newsflash you apparently need. But I would encourage you to keep saying these things. Keep going. Kamala Harris, if you keep this up, is going to win in a landslide. And of course, you and your boss will then claim that it was fraud. Then you're going to try to get the election to be passed into the hands of Congress or the corrupt, treacherous Supreme Court. We'll see what happens. But you consistently find a way to make things worse for the Donald Trump campaign. But to be fair to you, it seems like this video is old. It seems like this video is probably from a year or two ago, but the point still remains. You have not turned your back on a single statement you've made. Not one. You double down and triple down and quadruple down. You couldn't ask for a better timeline. You couldn't. You couldn't ask for a better timeline. JD Vance, thank you. I want to formally thank you every time Twitter finds some crazy shit that you said. I want to formally thank you every single time because it further establishes that Kamala is going to win. Kamala's going to, with this kind of activity and behavior coming from y'all, I can't see how she could possibly lose. Talking about some the people on Twitter are crazy because they don't have kids. When ever since y'all have been given power of Twitter, you conservatives, it's been hell on earth. It's been a rise in anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish rants and commentary, anti-black, all of that. It's been insanity since conservatives took over Twitter. What are you even talking about? And you serve a man who has an abundance of children and yet is insane and has no morals or scruples or anything of the sort to hold him back. He's not burdened by things like honesty and integrity. He's unburdened by I don't even know if that has been in his life. I don't even know if Donald Trump ever had those things in his life ever. But any man who could lie to his own supporters, get one of them killed, and still with no shame run for office again is a man who is completely just drenched in sociopathy. Or sociopathy, excuse me. For you to serve that man and still point the finger at anyone else, you are beyond reality, just like the rest of the Trumpites. You are separated from what we know as reality, and you are in Trump world. Y'all are insane. At the end of the day, it is what it is. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.